Greetings, everyone. I'm Eric Mackey, and I'm one of your trainers for DESE's PBIS Academy. This video is focused on PBIS team operations and action planning. The content for this video was developed by the Center on PBIS and Northeast PBIS. In this video, we'll discuss your optimal team composition and action planning. Your responsibilities will be to identify your team members, create your action plan, and complete your team profile to be submitted via the Canvas system. The content for this module will walk you and your team through the first getting started step of establishing an effective team. To help your team to be effective and efficient, we'll also talk about action planning. Your first and most important task at this time is to form your PBIS team. In order for your PBIS efforts to be culturally and contextually relevant, you need a team that is representative of all the key stakeholders within your school community. This includes having an administrator, grade and department representatives, specialists, support staff, family members, community members, and, when developmentally appropriate, students at your table. Such representation gives your team credibility and helps your team to develop your PBIS framework in a way that meets the needs for everyone within your school community, not just a select few, not just the majority. Every year, you will need to review your team composition to make sure that all key stakeholders are represented. If you find yourself in a situation where you feel that your team is too big to be productive, you may want to consider breaking into subcommittees with balanced representation of roles. You may be surprised to hear us recommend having family members and students on the team. Parents and students are crucial players in the implementation of PBIS to fidelity. When done well, PBIS will impact students and their families in positive ways. If they're not brought to the table, though, and engaged for their perspectives, PBIS will likely be perceived as something done to them rather than a framework built with them and for them. Bringing parents and students into the team helps to support the relevance and equity efforts of PBIS. It also helps to facilitate positive student outcomes and helps to promote engagement of other parents and other students. We do have some advice with regards to bringing student and family reps to your PBIS team, such as making sure that their role in the team is clear, making sure that family representatives are being provided with true opportunities to be active members, allowing them to take part in the building and implementing of systems like celebrations and acknowledgements. We also want to be empowering families to present PBIS related information and data out to other families and school community members. And finally, we want to make sure to honestly seek their feedback regarding school processes, even if that means hearing something that challenges the status quo. When thinking about bringing parents and students onto the teams, many worry about students and parents hearing protected information about students. This really shouldn't be a problem with this particular team, as you won't be discussing individual students or teachers. This team will be talking more broadly about the systems, the practices, and the data needed to implement PBIS school-wide effectively. We have some further recommendations regarding your team membership, your systems for team meetings, and scheduling of team meetings. With regards to membership, as we said, make sure that your team is representative of the whole building with regards to roles and other demographics like age, race, language, etc. Make sure that you have at least one or two members with knowledge and skill around proactive strategies for promoting desirable student behavior. That may be your BCBA, behaviorist, or your school psychologist. Also include 1 to 2 family members as discussed before. And make sure that you have active and consistent participation from an administrator. Administrative support gives your team the authority it needs to move forward with building the PBIS framework. Your team will frequently need administrative approval before moving forward with anything that changes practices within your school. With an administrator on your team, approval comes more readily, and the administrator can help your team foresee any roadblocks that might stall your efforts. With regards to your team's systems, to maximize efficiency and longevity, you'll want to start thinking early about how you can integrate other behavior-related initiatives like anti-bullying, positive school climate, social emotional learning into PBIS. We'll be talking more about how you can do that in a while. In order to reduce the chance of another initiative coming along and undermining your PBIS efforts, you'll want to work with your administrators to establish PBIS as a priority for the school and the district. Ideally, PBIS should be aligned with school and district goals or improvement plans so that resources like time, training, and money will be allocated to it. Finally, with regards to your teams and scheduling, in the least, plan to meet monthly for an hour. Without such frequency, it will be very hard to create and sustain momentum and will be challenging to keep up with the tasks for this academy. If possible, try to meet twice a month while you're building your PBIS framework. To sustain your PBIS efforts and to keep your peers in the loop and engaged, plan to present out to staff on a monthly basis at least. This may be to explain what PBIS is, to gain feedback on a product, or to share data. It's helpful to set those times early so those opportunities to engage your peers don't get missed. Finally, we'll support you with creating a calendar and scheduling your assessments. We'll talk more about that in another Academy session and module. To keep your meetings efficient and effective, we recommend that you determine team roles for your team members for your meetings. As a team, you may decide that members should keep their roles year-round or maybe rotate. Some helpful roles include having a facilitator. This person prepares the agenda for the meeting, sends out the agenda in advance, and facilitates the meeting. To start, this is often the coach, but it doesn't necessarily need to stay that way. The note taker documents the discussions of the meeting. It's important for this person to be relatively tech savvy and able to document the important nuggets of the discussions and not necessarily every word. These notes should be made available for all to see. If you keep your agenda on a common electronic file, like within a Google Drive, this is really easily accomplished. The timekeeper helps to keep the team on track schedule-wise. As the time frame for a discussion draws near, the person lets the team know by making verbal reminders like, excuse me, we have 5 minutes left to talk about acknowledgement systems, or maybe making reminders when the time has passed, such as we're 7 minutes over on this topic, we got to keep moving. The norm keeper is someone who monitors the proceedings of the meeting to ensure that everyone is following the pre-established norms of the group. If necessary, this person will remind the group of the expectations, such as, please remember that we value holding one conversation at a time. Some teams keep a friendly nag. This is a person who keeps track of all the tasks and deadlines that are assigned during a meeting and sends out friendly reminders to make sure that tasks are being worked on. Finally, if you're unable to have a parent or student member on your team, it's helpful to appoint someone to be the eyes, ears, and voices of those important populations, reminding the team how team discussions might be perceived by a student or a parent if they were there. Once you have your team, you'll want to start building your action plan. If you're less familiar with action planning, this is the process of organizing the activities that you need to complete and the resources that you need to complete them, all in the efforts of achieving specific outcomes like implementing PBIS, reducing suspensions, improving school climate, and reducing inequities. This process is generally tracked using an action plan document, which includes who's responsible, what they're responsible for, and when they need to complete the task. Here's an example of an action plan. This is based on the Team Implementation Checklist, or the TIC. You'll be completing this about 2 or 3 times per year when you're in the academy. You'll notice that this action plan is organized by what needs to be accomplished, by whom, and by when. As you can see, your action plan doesn't need to be overly complicated. However, it does need to help you and your team to organize the tasks you need to complete. An action plan can only accomplish these tasks if you review it and update it regularly. Through your time in the academy, we'll frequently prompt you to pull up your action plan and make revisions. So it'll be helpful to have a digital version of your team's action plan. So all the team members of your team may review and update it in real time. It's helpful to have your action plan kept in a Google, Dropbox, or Microsoft Cloud Drive. You'll want to find an action plan that matches with how your team functions and thinks. We have a few samples on the NEPBIS website that you can download. You just need to go to the nepbis.org website, click on the Tier 1 School-Wide tab, and then click on Workbook and Supplemental Resources. As you and your team develop your action plan, there are important principles to keep in mind, such as how does your action plan match the goals of your district? Are the items on your action plan supporting your desired measurable outcomes? Is there room for revision based on the needs shown by data? Does your action plan prioritize what is already known to work? Will the work you are doing ensure that implementation can continue long term? And are the decisions that you're making feasible, important, and giving you the best bang for your buck, rather? Use your action plan to help you remember what you plan to do and prioritize your next steps. Now, as a team, spend some time developing your team and your action plan. Please review your team membership and make sure that you have representation of all key stakeholders, like grade level teachers, paras, specialists, administrators, and family members. Then start an action plan. You can use one of our templates or create your own. You may already have an action plan in place or a template that your school uses. Go ahead and use that one if that works best for you. And finally, please complete the team profile and agreements form and submit it to NEPBIS via the Canvas system. Thank you for taking the time to review this video focused on teaming and action planning. Please feel free to reach out to your trainers if you have any questions or would like support in completing your team tasks. Thank you very much.